Hello and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. Today we are discussing Trump's controversial appearance at the NABJ. We are going to be fact checking and discussing the fallout of that. I am your host today, Athena Gardner, and we are going to go through Trump's 34-minute speech, which was filled with lies and insults aimed at Black journalists, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the American public. So, despite the low expectations, Trump managed to turn the event into a colossal train wreck. So, joining me today are my co-queens, Marlo, TV and film producer, and also an NABJ member. So, we are going to get the best scoop on what usually happens and her perspective, and the lovely international mindset coach and speaker, Lindsay Vertner. So, all right, ladies, in today's show, we are going to have a lot to discuss. But before we do, if you're new or if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe to the channel and follow us. And make sure you go to the website, flynubianmoney.com. Also, text the word Queens, that is QUEENS, to 87948 so you do not miss when we're live and any other updates that we may have for you. Now, before we get into everything, I know that we have a video. So if you've been living under a rock, Trump went to the NABJ. They invited him to do an interview to discuss his platform and what he can do for Black journalists. And he went in true Trump fashion and gave a response. So we are going to cue up that video and watch what his initial response was.
I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country. Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. I think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Listen, Trump must have been following Nene. He pulled that so nasty and so rude. He was like, you are so nasty and so rude. So, ladies, now that we have watched this clip, what are your initial reactions? I'll start with you, Marlo, because I see you steaming over there.
Initially, I was upset that they had even invited him, because obviously it was going to be a banana boat, right? It's going to be like, what is this? What are we doing? Unserious business when Donald Trump comes to an event. But also, NABJ always does invite sitting presidential candidates during candidacy years to the conference. It's a national conference, once a year conference. And it's no different than, the what you would attend in the world of finance, or what a doctor or a nurse would attend at a national conference. You sit around, you talk about what's new, how are laws affecting you. People give inspirational speeches, how I got here, how did I get to the top tier of whatever, how did I become owner of this network. It's just like all other jobs, except it just happens to be specified to these Black people that do these Black jobs in journalism, right? So I knew he was going to get hostile. I didn't realize that they would put him across from his true nemesis, which are Black women. He is most hostile to Black women more than any other spectrum of the population. Go back and look. Go back and look at his interactions with Omarosa before they were friends, before she tried to win him the Black vote and then regretted dealing with him again. They had negative, nasty interactions during The Apprentice. So if you look, his true kryptonite, if you will, is a Black woman, and they sat three of them across from him to ask him questions. He didn't feel like he had a friend in the room. There were a few conservative voices. You could hear them kind of hooting and hollering, trying to prop him up, but there were also a lot of boos. But I don't want to discount the fact that there were conservative journalists in the room. There are journalists that support Donald Trump, just like in every other spectrum of community. One of the ladies, I can't think of her name, but she actually is for Fox, works for Fox News, Fox National News. She's on Fox and Friends, a regular contributor, political contributor. So we're all over the spectrum, right? But Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump. I don't care if he's talking to the National Association of Baby Jugglers. I don't care if he's talking to the National Association of Black Journalists, the National Association of Asian Scientists. Like, he's always going to be who he is. And we have to think about, is that who we want to be the representative for the United States of America?
Well, is it normal for a presidential candidate to attend the NABJ conference? Is that a normal thing that happens?
They extend the invitation, and in the past, sitting presidents have done, as you can see the graphics, have attended, or either as the sitting president or as a candidate. It depends on the schedule. Kamala Harris was invited. She already said she was invited as vice president before she was the candidate. She'd already turned down the invitation, but said that she could do it virtually or at another date. That already was kind of set in stone before this madness unfolded last week, right? So it is typical. It's not anything out of the ordinary. They didn't invite him there as a gotcha moment. I think that they invited him there as a real moment, because 18% or 13%, however many percentages of Black people that represent or that feel like they're going to support Donald Trump in November, they should have journalists there that are going to bring that message in back to them. So I think that, he was treated the way that anybody that's a sitting president or former president or presidential candidate was treated, but he's abnormal because he's Donald Trump.
Right. And I want to ask people in the chat, what do you think? Do you think that Trump appearing at the NABJ, did that help his campaign, especially with getting the Black vote, or did that hurt his campaign? I'm very curious to see what everyone in the chat thinks. Now, Lindsay, now I know you're not, an NABJ member like Marlo, but you are our international mindset queen, honey. So what was your first reactions to what you just saw with the trip in Clump? And I want to ask you the same question. Do you think that did it help his campaign or did it not?
So I didn't see the clip. Well, I saw the clip that we just shown. That was my first time actually watching it. I didn't get to watch the full clip prior to that. So I don't know if it hurt or helped in full because I haven't seen the full thing. However, from the clip that I just saw, y'all, who is he talking to like that? Like I think that reporter did very well in her Black job, holding her composure and not getting indecent with Mr. Trump there, because he was definitely talking out of the side of his neck. And I definitely could see a lot of signs of narcissism and gaslighting and deflecting, because he knew he was getting that little tail lit up.
Yes, and I think
under fire, baby.
One thing I did notice when I did watch the entire interview was it seemed like he had some rehearsed talking points. And whenever the question went further or needed more explanation or for him to expound more, he kept repeating or circling back. So that was something that was curious to see happen as I'm watching his interview, because I do think that he's not that deep of a thinker, or maybe he's not that deep of a thinker, or he doesn't have that much political experience. So when they're asking him certain like economic or policy questions, like he can only go so far, right? He can only go so far. Now, another question that I found curious was that when he was discussing being there, he was saying at least he showed up versus Kamala didn't, right? But as we discussed, she said she was engaged. She had a funeral to attend, something like that. She had a funeral to attend, and so she couldn't come. But is there a point? Does he have a point with what he's saying as far as at least I'm willing to walk into the lion's den? At least I'm walking into an environment I know may not be receptive of me. Does Trump get points for that?
See,
Lindsay?
that's where I have another issue, because it's like a setup. If you already knew she couldn't be there, like she was invited to come, just as he was invited to come, way before she was even up for the presidency. So she was unable to in her schedule. And so then he tried to play that like, oh, she's not here. And look, I am here, and try to big up himself. That's like if I know that you aren't available on Friday, but then I'm going to show up and say, now look, Athena's not available Friday. She didn't show up. But I knew you wasn't available on Friday, and I'm making you to be the bad guy. That's a whole setup and a way to like get myself to look better than my opponent or whomever else. And I'm like, I didn't like that at all, because that was kind of shady.
Okay. All right. Marlo, what did you think? Does he get points for showing up?
I gave him points for showing up, but then I took him back because he showed up as Donald Trump, right? So instead of him taking this opportunity and really being able to present something to these journalists so that they could write about whatever from that experience of having a sitting president speaking, and maybe they could have shined some positive insights for certain people who won't consider him at all, right? So he didn't win favor with those people, I don't think, in that moment. He just showed that he was who people think he is. But also back to Athena's observation that everything is on a surface level, right? This is a master marketer. You cannot tell me one other person who's the builder of buildings that you can name them by name. I will give you 3 seconds. What other builder of buildings can you name for me? You can't. Donald Trump has taken his father's business, turned it into a global brand that now they don't even build buildings anymore. They just lease the Trump name to stick on the side of buildings. So he is always in marketer mode. This is like when the CEO of your company comes and he's telling you all the high points and a rah-rah team speech so he could get that bonus at the end of the year, and you and your colleagues leave and y'all like, what the hell was that? Why did we even, what is this man talking about? I don't care about this shit. That is what he comes to do every single time. He is strictly there to give a glossy overview. He's never given you anything above the surface because he doesn't retain anything below the surface. So it's just,
Listen,
he is who he is, and he will only be who he is. And all you need to do is watch the way that Donald Trump behaves to know what Donald Trump is going to do. It's like him saying after he was pierced by that automatic weapon that he was going to be kinder and gentler, and it lasted for about 17 minutes, and then he leaned back into who he is because he is who he is, child. He ain't gonna it. That's all you gonna get, my girl. That's nothing else. Ain't nothing else
I think
there.
you gave a bar about you're only going to get the surface because there's nothing beneath the surface. I'm going to write that down and save that for a future day. Now, if you are joining us, we are your political queens today. We have Marlo, TV and film producer, and we have Lindsay Vertner, our international mindset coach, and we are Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also find us at flynubianmoney.com. If you want to make sure that you do not miss anything, okay, do not skip a beat with us, please text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. We are also available on Spotify, so if you want to listen to us on the go, you sure can. Now, if you have been under a rock, we are talking about Trump's controversial appearance at the NABJ conference and fact checking what he said and the fallout from that. Now, I want to play devil's advocate here, right? And I want to actually pivot to Hassan's Francis comment. And he said the so-called journalist came off hostile and antagonistic and biased, and he came in with good faith. And it was the journalist's obligation to offer him an agenda and miss the opportunity. So to Hassan's credit and in full transparency, I want to give my opinion as well. The beginning of that interview, I did feel like the first journalist, I'm gonna call her Blue Suit because I don't know her name. So Blue Suit, she was really spitting hot fire, okay? Like she was in the booth. She was really giving a lot. And while her points I thought were very, very, very valid, I thought, girl, like, don't just slaughter him like a little piglet in a Hawaiian luau out the gate. Just warm it up first. You want to put him, threw him in the fire. You don't want him to pop first. So I just felt like it set the tone for him to be defensive. And if you want people to open up and give information, you got to kind of make them feel comfortable and then kind of slaughter them in the end. But that's my opinion. Marlo, what did you think about that? The initial beginning to the interview, did you feel like she came in way too aggressive, or you think no, that was the energy that it needed to have?
She definitely came in hot, but I think she came in hot on behalf of all kind of Black journalists, specifically Black female journalists who've been berated by this man. He talks down to people. He has told Yamiche Alcindor, who is a super, super smart political strategist and journalist, that she is not very smart. That wasn't a smart question. Why did you come here? You could have asked a better question. And then forgets the question and goes on to answer something that she didn't even ask, right? Because again, it wasn't part of his prepared talking points, because he is a bullet point master. That is how he likes his press information laid out. He likes to just have a few little words and he feels like he's gonna freestyle. That is what people who work behind the scenes understand that about him. And I think that's also what frustrates people, because nobody cares how the sausage is made. Y'all don't care how these situations happen, right? Y'all just care the front facing end product, but people know that they're dealing with somebody that is hostile and chronically ill prepared for whatever the moment is, free of name calling, right? He always got a blazing hot fire little retort for giggles, right? He could always give you back a little hot one-liner that's gonna get a little chuckle, but there's not anything else. And so while she could have finessed the situation a little better, I think I would have tried to finesse the situation a little better to try to get him open and relaxed and to a point where once we start fact checking, now he's in the hot seat because we know you lied, sir. We know you lied. Anybody that lied about bankruptcies, y'all, like this man has lied about having filed bankruptcies, multiple bankruptcies. And then he comes back and says, well, can't get mad at me because I finessed the system. But that's because somebody whispered in his ear and was like, tell them that this, bankruptcy is a vehicle of the system. And so you're just utilizing the tools that are there. But you filing bankruptcy so that you don't pay small business people. Like, sir, get out my face. You lie too much. I don't like it. It is the antithesis of journalism to lie. It don't go together. We want the reality, or at least as much reality as a situation can give us. Some things are classified, you can't get all the deets, right? Some things are in criminal court, you can't get all the deets. But sir, things that are already on the record, you're gonna lie about the HBCU money and where that started and where it came from? Get out our face, please. Bye.
Listen, to the left. Okay, to the left. So I want to pose this question to the chat too. Okay, do you think that for those of you in the chat that have watched the interview, Do you think that the reporter was so nasty and so rude? Or do you think that that was the energy that needed to give? Did the reporter, the interviewer, hold Trump accountable, right? Because, you know, it was said that he was giving them a hard time before the actual interview. So they were tense, you know, they were tense. But I want to also highlight someone's comment in the chat and said that it seems like the first interviewer was looking for a gotcha moment to me, honestly. All right. And I thank you for that comment, LRL01. So, Lindsay, do you agree with this comment? Do you think that the first interviewer, she came off way too aggressive because she wanted a soundbite? Or do you feel like when dealing with Trump, that's how it needs to be?
First, let me clarify. Was the clip that we showed, was that the first interviewer or was that a different one?
That was the first.
Okay, so from the clip that I saw, because that's all I can base my opinion on, is that, and from the few articles I've seen since it all happened, I thought that she was doing her job. I thought she kept her composure. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want a journalist that is timid and only covering surface level things. Like, no, go deep. Give me the good stuff. Hit the points that don't nobody want to hit, and find the real meat. You know, the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to talk about. I want my journalists to, you know, have some backbone, have some strength about them, so that they can get down to the nitty gritty that we really need to discuss. So from that clip, I thought she was fine.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you guys shared your opinion. I thought she could have been just a little bit. I felt like she went full force on the gas, but maybe she was waiting too long, and maybe he was tap dancing her nerve behind the scenes, right? So she didn't have the energy to be gracious when she had to get these questions out, especially because he was kind of tiptoeing around some of these questions. Now, if you are just joining us, welcome. We are Fly Nubian Money, and here with you Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, helping you to master your mindset and increase your income. On this topic today, we are discussing Trump at the NABJ and fact checking and the fallout of that controversial interview. What we would like to say is that if you want to join us, make sure you text the word Queens, that is QUEENS, to 87948 so you do not miss a beat with us, honey. And please, if you're joining us live, leave a comment with your thoughts and opinions, and we might share them on live. Okay, so Trump is not gracious, y'all. And we know this, right? And to be honest with you, I think that kind of hurts Kamala, because Kamala's a woman, and a lot of psychological studies show that women have to appear gracious, nice, all of these things in order to be liked, versus a man can be, you know, the devil's incarnate and still command a certain level of respect. But I think we have, but not necessarily that she is great either. Someone in the chat did say that they felt like, and he's called Ice Pepsi, which is an interesting name. Are you refreshing Ice Pepsi? He said Black women will vote for Harris no matter what. Now,
not refreshing.
Oh, not refreshing. Oh, you can taste the chemicals in that one. That wasn't that wasn't organic. So do you feel like, I'm sorry, I'm laughing too much. Do you feel like he has a point? Because we do have some stats about where Kamala and Trump have lined up since this interview amongst Black voters, which 81% of Black voters are very much showing leaning Kamala's side versus Trump, right? So this was actually, it didn't really help him as far as Black voters. We also have some statistics when it comes to young voters, where even young voters from ages 18 to 29 are saying, you know what, we're leaning more towards Kamala, right? So I think that, on these states, these battleground states estimates, it does seem like Trump is just inching in the polls, but not by a lot. So I think with Harris, especially with her endorsement, her newly fresh endorsement, being able to raise all that money. She's already putting her foot on Trump's neck, honey, for this spot, right? Oh, okay. So all politicians lie. Yeah, that's kind of true. Listen, politicians are like, who got the best propaganda is one who wins, right?
So I just want to point out something real quick, because I think one of the comments had mentioned like, oh, she was ratchet and she was rude. That's strength in regards to my last comment. But I don't know what y'all looked at, but I didn't see ratchetness. I didn't see rudeness. I saw a strong Black woman that was being firm, and she was being clear, and she was telling him, well, you said this. We did the fact checking, even though you didn't want us to fact check, but that wasn't true, and so on and so forth. So I'm curious, and I'm wondering what the chat thinks about this as well. If this were a white woman, exact same tone, exact same words, exact same mannerisms, would we still be having this conversation? Because I feel like it pulls out the microaggressions of the angry Black woman. It's like when you go to the workplace and you can have a white woman and a Black woman say the exact same thing in the exact same tone, but the white woman is right. And, oh, are you okay? Let's see what we can do to fix it. The Black woman gets reported to HR, and she was aggressive and she was mean and she's the angry Black woman. We can do the simplest thing and be categorized or called angry Black woman for doing the same things that other people, even if we take it down a notch, they'll still, oh, she was aggressive towards me. We do it towards our Black men as well. So I'm very curious, if this was a white woman in the same lines of questioning behaviors, mannerisms, tones, all of those things, if we'd still be having this same conversation, because I feel like we wouldn't.
I feel like we wouldn't either, because when it's a Wahite woman and that caucasity be on 10, everybody the treatment, she's professional. She's just being very, critical. She's just doing her job. Let a Black woman come up in here. She's like the devil incarnate. She got a pitchfork in the back of her suit.
But first of all, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and then people look at it like, who is this woman, right? She doesn't anchor the news. She isn't a face that you see every day on the evening news or on a regular news report. So people are certainly like, well, who is she and why does she ask him questions? The nerve of her, right? That's the tone that people take from this man who calls Black people animals, compares you to this, and oh, she's so nasty. And it's like, think about the way that he is talking about these women versus, and they have to then justify, then you get your Gayle Kings on the news and stuff like that, running their resumes and saying why they should have this opportunity and who they are in the business. And it's like, I'm annoyed.
You're annoyed. Are you talking about blue suit?
I just want to say I'm annoyed by the whole thing. Don't judge Black women when we out here doing our jobs, trying to make sure that y'all are informed, right? There's this news backlash because of Trump, because Trump borrowed themes from Nazi Germany and the way that they handle journalists. And these are journalists, respected journalists, who are standing up and saying, don't lie to us with things that we can easily find the truth about. We're trying to give you a platform to talk. And unless we just being silent and nodding our heads and smiling and being what people want us to be in a vision of soft, right? Then we doing too much. Anytime we open our mouths, we doing too much. It's fine.
Yes, I agree. And I do think that there's a way, though. I really liked how Harris Faulkner, how she engaged with him and responded to him, because you also have to think strategically. If you come in nasty, he's going to use it against you. So you have to be like, remember Dr. Alicia was on the episode last week saying that just imagine you're just a big gray rock and just be calm. Like, you just need to go into like your gray rock mode. But anyway, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are Fly Nubian Money. We are your political queens today. Marlo Layson, TV and film producer and NABJ member, and Lizzie Vertner, an international mindset speaker and coach. And I'm Athena Gardner, CPA and wealth expert, and we are here hosting your shows for today. Now, we are going to pivot to a clip, honey. We're going to pivot to a clip. If you have missed it or you've been under a rock, we are discussing Trump's controversial appearance, and let's roll the footage.
Person who has the most delegated to be the Democratic nominee, that she turned Black. I think if I had to tell you that in the room, the sort of statements that got the most response were when he was questioning the race of the vice president and claiming that she was some chameleon of sort. Because we know, as people who report on her, but also any American can go look at her background. She went to a historically Black college, Howard University. She also joined a historically Black sorority, the first in the nation to be founded, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And over again throughout her life, she's noted that she's both Black and Indian. So there were so many things going on, but I think the thing that really sort of resonated with people was that this was Trump sort of going after maybe birtherism 2.0 is the way that some of the sources I was talking to said it. And I do want to just point out that I was texting people that are close to Vice President Harris during the talk. And one of them was saying to me, he is completely unhinged. This is also Trump. He cannot help himself. The other person said, it is simply a lie and easily disproved. She went to Howard for Christ's sake. This is painful. Yeah. So that also was the reaction both outside of the room too.
Now, just a quick follow-up. Trump having issues with race is one thing, but why do you think he goes after Kamala's gender, calling her crazy and defending J.D. Vance, who called her a childless cat lady? What is that all about?
Well, I think based on my reporting, and this is really what people close to the vice president, as well as Democrats, have told me, they believe that former President Trump is going after Vice President Harris's race and gender because he thinks there's a segment of the population that's going to be riled up by that, that's going to want to vote for him because that is what he's doing. And they secretly or overtly believe that that is something that should be criticized and that women should not be allowed to lead. Just the other day, Shaquille Brewster, one of our great NBC News correspondents, had a man who told him on the record, on camera, that he does not believe a woman should be president. And I heard that over and over again when I was reporting in 2016 and covering Bernie Sanders, that there were a segment of the Bernie supporters who said, well, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton because I think she's a woman and I just think that looks weak. And I think that our country's going to look weak on the world stage. So I think there is a population for that. And I think there is even a small sliver of an idea that maybe as he tries to appeal to Black men who by and large are Democrats and by and large, based on my reporting, are excited about Vice President Harris. Yeah. He's thinking maybe there's a small sliver of the population of Black men who are saying, oh yeah, well, I don't like her and I don't think she's Black. And by the way, I don't like the idea of the country being led by a woman.
Captain was still walking around, so that was good to see. I'm so sorry. But I do think that interviewer has a point where she did say that there's a population of men or women and people who are not necessarily for Kamala, because I can just see in the chat already, Ice Pepsi been on 10, and he said that NBC is known to be biased towards Democrats. And Aaron said Kamala is busy getting rappers to entertain y'all, right? Which is a whole other segment. But I do feel like when she's discussing the controversial and offensive questions that may have come across, right? But I felt like all the questions were valid questions to ask. And I do think that anyone who is in a public office or a political candidate should be open and welcome critical questions. But do you think, Marlo, that instead of that being the focus, did Trump kind of divert the issues by focusing on Kamala, her ethnicity, and saying that she's a DEI candidate? Is that a tactic you think the Republicans are using to kind of, misdirect the issue?
The DEI hire is what I didn't see that one coming in this election. I didn't see what should be a representation of the great American melting point or melting pot actually being a source of division in the country. Like, that was not on my bingo card for DEI and Black, for it to be the new N word, right? I was not expecting that. But I think that her race is something that she is going to have to address. She's going to have to do it the way that Barack Obama did it. She's going to have to buy a little TV time so that she could talk to the American people. We love a little cute fireside chat. Maybe she could do it from the first vice president's office. I don't know what the rules are. She might have to rent a room at the Four Seasons. I don't know. But she's going to have to sit down and have a little come to Jesus moment with the American people, introduce herself. Her father is this Jamaican financial wizard. He was a great economist. Her mother, an Indian immigrant who probably could only be a DEI hire, right? She only could get to an American college because they were trying to push this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion during the 60s and 70s. So I think that she just got to come out, be honest, say who she is, introduce the American people. Everybody not going to love you. You're not for everybody. And the minute that she makes her mind up and sets forth her agenda, we'll see where the chips fall. Will people vote for a man who is part of the family values, small government party that doesn't subscribe to family values and that gave the largest unpaid tax cut that put us in a bad financial situation? Go check the facts, y'all. Like, we've seen that play out, right? We've lived through a Bush administration where there were all these tax cuts that weren't paid for, and what Barack Obama ended up inheriting behind that and having to clean up behind that in terms of the economy. So we have a clear choice. And again, as I always say, I ain't trying to tell nobody who to vote for, because that's the beauty of America. Your vote is your vote. But in terms of her race, it's going to have to be policy, because for white people control the narrative about race. So if every time there's a candidate that is a little melanated, the question is always, are they Black enough? Are they too Black, right? What's their connection to the Black community? Does she got Megan twerking, or does she have the violin hip hop girl? Like, what is she trying to get the neo soul Black folks? Like, who is this Black? Whose Black are you? Every time we got a Black candidate running for something on a national level. So I think race out the window, because white people decide who's Black, right? Is she Black? That's why he could ask. That's why he could say she just turned Black, because they turned us Black. We were whatever we were before they decided that we were Black all those generations ago. So yeah, they get to make the determination of who's Black, but whose Black will she appeal to? I have no idea. I do know that it's just a clear, stark contrast between where you want the country to go, what your idea of America is, and whether or not you want JD Vance to be a heartbeat away from the presidency with Cheeseburger Mac at the leadership. That's the decision, y'all.
Cheeseburger Mac at the leadership. Okay. I want to pose a question to the chat, because I'm checking the chat. You know, I know on these political shows, you know, everybody get tense, you know, everybody get heated, right? It's like, you know, running through hell on these political shows that we do. So I want to ask everyone a question in the chat. Just put yes or no. Do you think Kamala is Black? Yes or no? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because I saw Aaron's comment, right, at 135. She is not Black. She is Jamaican and Indian. I think most Jamaicans are Black, no? Aren't they? I'm Jamaican, so, you know, I'm Jamaican. So I'm just like, over 90% of the population is Black. I'm Black. So I'm just like, is it, when you guys say she's not Black, does that mean Black American? Is that, because she was also born in America. So I was just, I'm really asking just for clarity, like, what is it?
You know, they mean, I feel like when people say she's not Black, they're talking about this, you know, the American descendants of slavery, right? I think that is a terrible narrative. I think that we need to be thinking about the whole diaspora. Y'all want to be limited. Y'all want to segment a segment. We already a segment, y'all. And y'all want to segment a segment. Like, why? Why you want to dissect something that's already dissected? Like, get your minds together. This is why there's no Black agenda, right? Black people talk about
pretty Black in the picture to me. He looked like he got a little afro right there. So someone said he's Irish and Indian. He looked very Black in that photo right there.
Right. Right.
He looked like my uncles.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in the chat. Just drop it. We're not gonna judge you. Is it yes or no? And yes, Jamaica does have more ethnicities than Black, but over 90% of the population is Black. All the other ethnicities fall in that 10%. And I'm Jamaican, so I know what I'm talking about. So nevertheless, all right. So let's pivot back to Lindsay. I want you to answer, right? Do you think that the focus on her ethnicity, why is that so important? Is that really important in this race? Because our Trump is white, and like, if you're just not a white candidate, is that an issue? Or do you think people are very much upset that she is not, I guess, native Black American, like her parentage is not Black American? And why do you think people are so, irritated by that?
I think when it comes to American society, anytime it's not a white person, race will be brought up, cultural background will be brought up, ethnicity, all of those things will be brought up and used as a divisive factor, because that's the fabric of this country. And by American standards, she is Black. Outside of the Jamaican or, all of those things, if you got some melanin of any of that type of nature, if they go and look at you, you white or you Black? You white or Black or white or Black? They don't care about all the rest of it. Oh, well, you came from Jamaica. Oh, you came from Nigeria. Oh, you came from wherever else. Are you Black or are you white? That is majority of what we look at in America, and that's the majority of the standards we go by: Black, white, Asian, Mexican. I mean, it is what it is. We can talk about it all day, but if you go and look at all the things, that's what we pick you guys as. That's what we categorize you guys as, like Black, white. Whites only section, Blacks only section. We don't care how Black you are, what Black you came from. Whites over here, Blacks over there.
I never thought about race so much until I remember the first week that I immigrated to this country, and I had my first week of school and my first week just living in America. And even as a child, I was just like, it was the first time being confronted with race in the sense of my Black skin means something in this country that I wasn't used to it meaning, because I grew up in a country where everybody was pretty much Black. So the only thing we could separate ourselves is class, who has money and who doesn't. So to come here and to have like people having certain expectations of me that were not great just because of my skin tone, it really introduced me to the insidiousness of race in America, not just from white people, but like pretty much everybody and our own people, to be honest with you. But I want us to pivot, right? I want us to pivot, but still drop in the chat, is Kamala Black or is she not Black? Because I want to see now. I want us to focus on something that is very important that was also came out of this interview, which is the criticisms that people had for Trump's running mate, JD Vance, right? So I want to hear your opinion on this, because I was quite offended because JD Vance was, talking mess about childless cat ladies. I'm like, what is wrong with childless cat ladies? Like, what? I'm a childless cat lady. I feel like I contribute a lot to society. All right, I pay my taxes. I don't bother nobody. So why is he coming for us? Do you feel like, and I'll start with you, Marlo, do you feel like JD Vance, and like you said, Trump is one cheeseburger away from having him take over his presidency, because Trump is 82 too? Do you think that his some of the stuff that he says, childless cat ladies, how I think what else came out of that debate, that people with families should get more votes than single people, do you think some of his agendas hurts or helps Trump's campaign?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag, because there is this subset of the population that is trying to repopularize the idea of the 1950s housewife, right? I'm in my pearls and I'm cute and I'm cooking and I'm doing and I'm bringing kids and I'm a super wife. Like that thing is coming back. And I think that is who that part of the population, they may or may not be regular voters. I think that JD Vance is trying to relate to them. I think him and his wife have done that in practice. She's left her law practice. She is no longer a practicing lawyer. She's just a full-time mommy, and she's going to be on the campaign trail, and she's going to be talking to like-minded women who went to college to get married and not have to use that degree on anything, right? So those of us who are skew a little bit more independent, then that drumbeat that we hear about successful women and how hard they are to corral and love, I think that's going to get louder during the summer. I think it's going to get more brazen during the summer. So hold on to your cat, Athena, because it's not even hot yet. As hot as it will be once these attacks start really kicking up, especially in the South, right? Where a proper Southern girl should be looking for her beau. She should be working every day to lock down a man. And
they want us to fall on the sword for a man so much. The time has changed, okay? They need to step it up or get left behind. Single women are buying homes at twice the rate and all kind of stuff. So
you got to celebrate that mediocrity. You have to take anything that comes. Is he abusive? Is he broken? Is he broke? Like all the things you have to be open to, so that you can be doing with your womb what JD Vance and all of his people want you to do with it, which is put a baby in it.
Listen, this country swear they care about children, but they do not give any subsidy for child care costs, raising or taking care of the child. Once you've been clipped and knocked up, that's it. That's all the concern for you and your child has left the building once that has happened. I'm not responsible for your dusty birth rate dropping because you guys can't provide a good economic system for raising children.
But you're messing up the 20-year, 40-year projections, Athena. You need to get with the program and be in step with the projections for the future of the economy.
Listen, I'm glad I have my cat. That's my emotional support animal during this whole thing. But all right, Lindsay, I do want to talk to you about that as well. Do you think Trump's running mate JD Vance, they're saying that he is interested in the working man, the working woman, and he has these traditional values. Do you think his values are really traditional, or do you think that they're sending us back to the Stone Age and in a Handmaid's Tale environment?
I definitely agree with the latter, that his values are very pro-white male, white supremacy, white all things superior, as from what I've seen. Okay, from what I've gathered so far, they seem in alignment. And a lot of people, look, I'm gonna just put it out there. Do I wish we had more options to vote for? Absolutely. It's down to, okay, which one is worse? Y'all ever play that game? Which one's worse? This is a bad option. This is a bad option, but you got to pick one of them. You can't tap out. I wish we had more options, but the fact of the matter is we don't. We have Democratic, we have Republican, and then we have, a few others. But unless we all come together and say we're not voting Republican, we're not voting Democratic, and we're going to vote for our own people, then me personally, I feel like those are wasted votes because the majority are going red or blue. So we really have to unite and figure out what do we want. And we have to be the ones that say, we don't want this and we don't want that. Here's our option that we are choosing. But I don't think we are ever going to unify and get together to where we get to that point. And a lot of people are saying like, well, Kamala ain't doing nothing for Black people. So a whole bunch of other presidents ain't done nothing for Black people either. And this country was set up not to do much for Black people. But I know what she's not doing for Black people. So that's why personally my vote has to go for her, because she is not the one trying to take away my women's rights. She is not the one, with Project 2025. If you are of the gay trans community, and you're voting for Trump, that doesn't make sense to me because those rights are trying to be taken away on that side. So I know what she's not doing. Whether she does anything else, I know if she's not taken away, even if she doesn't do anything for me, but that's where I step in and I do the best to provide for myself. So she may not do much for me, but I know who's going to do less for me, because I think we forget about that whole campaign with Trump putting away the Central Park five innocent boys. Go back and watch that. I think we forget about the lawsuit, the housing discrimination lawsuits against Trump. Like, we have selective memory in this
And his
country.
daddy.
So he ain't doing shit for us either. He want to give y'all a few dollars and, shuck and jive. Look at me. Now y'all good because I gave y'all a stipend. But listen, let me just hush my mouth for a second.
It's tough because as a registered independent voter, there's criticism on both sides that I really don't like nobody, to be honest with you. But, so I know sometimes some of the viewers are confused because is she voting for Trump? Is she voting for Kamala? I deserve and reserve the right to critique both because that is what I do. If you're just joining us, welcome to Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But in case you don't want to ever miss us, please text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948 so you can be subscribed and you will get our messaging. Also, go to flynubianmoney.com so you can get us freebies as well. Now, I want to actually pivot to some fact checking because I think that's important. I think a lot of misinformation has been put out there, and this whole election cycle has been like misinformation, divergent thoughts, like, all over the place. So I want to do some fact checking from Al Sharpton, if we have that.
President Donald Trump appeared at the National Association of Black Journalists annual convention in Chicago earlier this week. Our own Yamiche Alcindor witnessed the event in person from the hotel conference room where it all unfolded. Yamiche, I must start with all the many falsehoods that Trump made during the 35-minute NABJ panel. There are so many of them, and unfortunately, we don't have that much time to dive into each one. So here is a list made up with the help of the Washington Post, and even we couldn't even fit all the lies in one graphic. Trump claimed nobody was charged for deaths in the Black Lives Matter protests. Not true. He said he saved historically Black colleges and universities. Not true. He said he is the best president for Black Americans since Abraham Lincoln. Really? There is an invasion of 15, 16, 7 million people coming across the border. Absolutely not true. That Kamala Harris, was the border czar. She is not. Many migrants are coming from mental institutions, he says. They are not. The crime rate of other countries is going down. It is not. The U.S. is having its worst inflation in 100 years. Not true. Biden was ruled incompetent in his presidential records case. He was not. Democrats allowed the killing of babies after being born. Come on now, are you for real? And there's more. That everyone wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. It is, in fact, exactly the opposite. Drilling will reduce inflation. How so? Grocery bills are up 60%. Simply not true. The U.S. has more oil than any other country. Based on what data? And last but not least, falsely suggesting that maybe Kamala Harris had decided to turn Black.
Listen, Al Sharpton just gave the read. That was a political read. That was a political read if I didn't see one. But yes, Trump definitely responded in ways that were not true. So I'm glad that we were able to share with our audience the things that were incorrect. But I want to pivot to something very important. And one thing that really stood out to me in the interview. They asked him questions about Sonia Massey and how he felt about her being unalived in her home, while he has, on record stating that he wanted to expand policy to protect police officers and potentially give them immunity from situations like that, meaning that instead of the guy who unalived Sonia Massey, him being persecuted or prosecuted to the full extent of the law, he would actually kind of get off scotch-free under some of the things Trump have said. What do you think about that, Marlo? Do you think that that is something that we need to greatly consider? Because we have this little duel going off in the chat, you know, for people who are pro-Trump and anti-Trump. But what are the implications of him potentially giving police officers the right to just unalive us at will?
Well, so in the state I live in, Louisiana, there is actually a police immunity bill that was signed by the governor in the last session during our. He called a special session on crime. That was one of the things that they wanted to get passed and did. And so it doesn't give them full blanket immunity, right? But there are two things that go hand in hand with that bill. There is a public records clampdown, right? So the agency, let's say there's a police shooting, and then I, as a journalist, I want that footage so that we can roll the footage. Well, we already know that they're not going to release that footage to us until they've concluded their investigation. But the extra part of that is that now they can determine whether or not we need that at all. Right. So if their information determines that this person should go forward without charges, there's nothing in the state of Louisiana law now that says the Louisiana State Police need to give us that footage so that then the public can see it, and perhaps a higher agency, the Department of Justice or somebody like that, could get involved and look and see if there's a civil rights violation. Right. So I think that in certain red states, this is already at an experimental level happening. Right. We have another law here. You can't be within 25 feet of police when they're doing their lawful police duties, right? So let's say there is an incident like a George Floyd where the people were on the sidewalk and the police were immediately in front of them in the parking lane, right? That's not 25 feet. So now those people can be backed all the way to the corner or across the street, which gives you a very different purview of what's happening between law enforcement and a citizen if they're having some type of heated exchange. So this stuff is not far-fetched. It is not that it can't happen. It's actually happening on an experimental level at the state levels. And so if Trump does get into office, or if JD Vance's Project 2025 and these codes are able to get passed, you're going to see a more rapid moving of that. And then these state statutes will be upheld at the federal level. Now you have no DOJ investigation. Now you have no federal Department of Justice coming in and saying, well, we can't do criminal charges, but we can look at this as a civil rights case. You don't have that anymore if these things are able to happen, and they are happening at a state level. So it would not surprise me if, as they're pushing legislation through as soon as they get in January, that these sorts of things are going to be happening. So while people are worried about Trump, check who is running for Congress, check who's running for your state legislature, check who is running for governor in your state, who's going to ban the books if they get on your school board, right? Like, I never want people to take their eyes off the main ball, because if somebody in a state where people took their eyes off the ball, there was a Southern homecoming, there was an LSU game, there was a Saints game, nobody voted. Everybody went to the football game. The 23% of the people that did vote in that election, 18% of those people are responsible for the laws that are being passed to affect 100% of the people. So I just want people to know this politics is a numbers game. If you don't show up, you get shut out. That is the way it goes. The team that shows up gets the most votes is the ones that win. And if your state is already securing blockades around some of the stuff that's in Project 2025, if people get elected at the federal level, it's going to be much easier to institute. So need y'all be paying attention. Everybody paying attention where we at. Tracking.
You bird box yourself and keep your eyelids open, honey. This is not the time to go underground. I want to address something in the chat. Cindy Temple said she's waiting for Kamala Harris to bring out a policy. And I'm waiting for her to come out with a policy too. But there's a reason for that. She is, the vice president is not yet the official nominee. She has gotten endorsements, but she's not the official nominee yet, and doesn't have a policy platform yet until she is officially nominated at the Democratic convention later this month. Because I know I was frustrated too. I'm like, where is the policy at, girl? But that process has to happen. Unfortunately, Biden withdrawing so late in the game kind of delayed certain processes for her to have. If they did it in a proper timing, she could have, been had a policy out, but we have to wait. All right. So, Queens, we have had a lovely show today. So insightful. These little political quandaries always happen. Everyone gets all tense. But Ice, Pepsi, and Aaron, I love you guys still. Okay. And I love all the other people in the chat. Armando Walls. Everybody, thank you guys so much for being so engaging, and for the ones who are respectful. Now, I want to end the show on a positive note. Lindsay, we'll start with you with last thoughts and let the good people know where they can find you.
My name is Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker. And listen, I'm going to say what I always say: protect your peace. Don't just constantly consume the news, the media, all political things. Turn the TV off, turn the news off, put down social media, and go do something outside of politics. Go do something that brings you joy, brings you peace, brings you relaxation, and just really protect your mind, body, spirit, soul, all of the things. And whenever you do tune into the political things, do your own fact checking, do your own research on all the things that everybody says, on what Kamala Harris says, on what Donald Trump says, on what anybody says. Go and do your own research from respectable resources. Okay, Wikipedia does not count as a reputable source. All right, so practice self-care. Self-care is not selfish, and do your research. Again, my name is Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker.
All right, and Marlo, where can the good people find you, darling?
I am around and about. I write and create content under my name, Marlo Layson. So you can find me if you just do a Google search. You can read what I write. I would like to say everything that Lindsay said is absolutely right. I live in the news cycle as it is my profession to do so. So I know way too much. I'm way too in the weeds. But I do have a rule when I come home that I unplug. I'm not in the mix. I'm not watching things unless they are serious citizenship things, because I am a voter and I am an engaged policy watcher. But I do like to get out and kick my shoes off. I express to everybody that they do the same, and that you protect your peace in this time. But also, don't let anybody, just tell you anything. Don't be ashamed to fact check. Don't be ashamed to put a few search terms into Google and try to find out on your own, and read through a few different things to make sure that you get a complete understanding, and you're not getting an understanding shaped by someone else's criteria and motives. So that's it for me. Look for me in the internet, read my things. I appreciate the clicks, and you can find me on Instagram. My name is Olra Marlo. That's my first name, backward, forward, and underscore.
All right. Now, it has been a journey. It has been a ride today, but I love you all. My last thoughts are this: make sure that you focus on the issues at hand and what are most important to you with either candidate. It seems like there's not really a standout best option. And as an independent voter, I just encourage everyone to really lean into their own policies and what they want as an agenda. If you want to find me, I am Athena Gardner, CPA and Wealth Coach, and you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, at wewealthwomen on all social media platforms, especially subscribe to my YouTube. I'm trying to build up my subscriber list. And also you can find me at the We Wealth Women podcast, available on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, and Audible. All right, so we are Fly Nubian Money. You can join us every weekday, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We help you to master your mindset and your income as well. Please text the word Queens, that is QUEENS, to 87948 to be on our text list so you do not miss any notifications, freebies, or anything that we would like to share with you. Also, you can find resources at flynubianmoney.com. We love you all and enjoy the rest of your day.